Welcome to our series of exploring our experiences of prayer. For the last 3 weeks, we've explored three dangers of prayer and perils of prayer, using prayer as a cop out, using it as a badge for spiritual maturity, and using prayer as a tool to earn salvation, justification by works. Now, for the next 3 weeks, we're exploring three promises of prayer. First of all, to experience connection. Secondly, to experience community. And thirdly, to experience change in our journey of faith. The three C's, three promises of prayer. Now, a background note is that a friend of mine whose career was dedicated to the mental health of his clients shared with me over coffee one day that, in his opinion, the two factors which facilitated a person's mental health were connection and community. Since receiving these words of wisdom, I've applied these factors as essential for spiritual health and added one. The two he gave me for mental health was community and connection, and I've added one, change. Now I want to begin our exploration of this first promise of prayer, connection, by reminding us of the wealth of wisdom that is available under the umbrella of thought that no person is an island. Living in isolation, separated from others, engaging life without significant relationships is simply not an option for those beings called humans. Now, I read this last week from an organization in Kansas City that's called Dads Against Crime. And a person by the name of Andre Harris stated this quote: "Give me the worst person, I promise you, if they feel genuine love, they can change." Let me say that again. Give me the worst person, I promise you, if they feel genuine love, they can change. No person is an island, is what Andre is talking about in his work. Now, the study of the Gospel of John makes the case that in every human life there is a spiritual dimension, sometimes hidden, sometimes never discovered, but in the life and teachings of Jesus, that's what Jesus was teaching. The incarnation of divine love, the inflesh of divine love was revealed in Jesus, not once and for all in the life of Jesus, but once and forever in the lives of those who are disciples of Jesus, who've discovered that element of divine love in our lives. We believe we exist with a spiritual dimension in our lives. And simply stated, one of the promises of prayer, the purpose of which is to align with the divine, is the discovery and maintenance of the connection we can experience with the divine in our daily lives. This connection is the third of the three simple rules that Bishop Jobs describes in his book entitled The Three Simple Rules of Our Journey of Faith. And the first one is do good. The second one is do no harm. And the third is keeping the ordinances of faith, teaching, staying in touch with God through prayer and the sacraments of the church. One of the promises of prayer is staying in connection with that divine element in every human life. This connection is what Paul wrote about in his letter to the church at Thessalonica when he encouraged the faithful to pray without ceasing. In other words, it's an unbroken connection without a break. Pray without ceasing, discovering the connection we have with each other and with divine love. This is what the short epistles of John unpacks. As we are connected to divine love, we are connected to each other as brothers and sisters. Love is the lifeline connecting us to each other. And that's one of the things we experience in prayer. It's the promise of prayer. This connection is a recurring theme of Jesus' teaching that as you treat one of the least of the human race, you treat me. It's all about the relationship of humanity to each other, involving the connection with the divine love present in each other. This connection is the meaning of my Buddhist friend that I mentioned a couple months ago in these lessons, who was troubled by a worship experience without the time of prayer because he said, today we did not touch God. That's the connection. That's the promise of prayer, that in prayer we experience the promise of the connection with divine love. This divine love is marked by empathy and sacrifice, so that all in what we say and do is aligned with the divine. An inseparable connection, never to be broken. Oh, to be sure, the connection can be ignored. Yeah, oftentimes in my life. It can be neglected. Yeah, oftentimes in my own life. It can be abused, oftentimes in my own life. But the connection cannot be broken. For as proclaimed in the gospel according to John, the incarnation of divine love in my life is a dimension of my human life, not once and for all in Jesus, but once and forever in every human being. And in the practice of prayer in many different forms, in community, in public, in private, that instead of ignoring, instead of neglecting, instead of abusing this connection, we experience in prayer the fulfillment of the promise of faith, connection with the divine. Now, in answer to the question, and it's a wonderful question, Bruce, what in the world does this look like? I just want to share a portrait of one who was a bundle of joy and faith. She was just connected to the divine in every time and place we met. She was a leader in civil rights issues, often protesting and leading persons' efforts to give voice to those who had no voice. She sat at the table with the powerful and the powerless, to be sure the presence of divine in every human being would be recognized. She, because of her contributions, was invited to be a member of a very prestigious college board of trustees. The first thing she did as a potential trustee, she was going to be elected in a few months, was that she enrolled in classes to learn not just the subject of the class, but to learn about a generation she was really separated from age-wise, but she was being asked to serve, and so she took classes with those that she was asked to serve. Before we became friends, one person said about her, "She's just absolutely amazing, Bruce. She always ends up on the side of love." That's what it looks like. She was connected. As we became friends, which was really just a delightful experience, I asked her one day about her prayer life, to which she referred, and she smiled, and she always called me brother. And she said, brother, my life of prayer is, I'm really a fake. So what do you mean a fake? She said, I don't pray like I used to pray. And I said, how do you pray? And she said, I pray with a listening ear. My life of prayer is to listen to every person I meet, especially my enemies, especially the people I don't like. As a child of God, her form of prayer was a listening ear. What a way to connect, even with enemies. Remember the teaching, we must pray for our enemies. The promise of prayer is we connect with divine love, and her form of that connection was the listening ear. Yes, one of the promises of prayer is that as we seek to align with the divine, we experience a connection that the divine will never sever. For the divine will always keep the promise to us. Emmanuel, God with us, the gift of love with us. That's the connection we experience in prayer. In any form that's used to align with the divine, we experience the promise of connection with the divine in each other and with our God. For your thought and conversation about this first promise of prayer as connection with the divine, what are your stories of those you experience being connected to divine love as they relate to you and others? And secondly, what's your response to the understanding that the divine is in every human, neglected, abused, ignored, or realized, celebrated, and shared? Thank you for being a part of our journey.